Hi everybody, welcome back. It's Karen Johnson, and today I thought I'd share a little something with you about making your own Florida water. And so shamans use Florida water for blessings, for calling in the directions, feeding the four directions, for clearing and cleansing, for feeding wakas, all these different things that we do with Florida water that is so important. And Florida water is immobilized by our breath. So when we're breathing and spritzing, we're aspirating. And so the intention when I create my Florida water is always a beautiful one. I imagine feeding the directions. I imagine cleansing and clearing my client's field. I imagine feeding a waka. I imagine all the beautiful things that I'm going to be doing with this Florida water. And so as always, we start out by opening our Viracocha, reaching up into that 8th chakra area. We all have that big step into the divine, into infinity. It's our own little portal into infinity. And so I open that, and then I reach up again and open it over all the things that I'm making. And in this case, I'm making the Florida water. So great times to make Florida water are full moon, new moon, and then this year in December, we have the solstice and on the 21st of December. And in addition to the solstice, we have the grand conjunction where Venus and Jupiter are meeting. And it only happens about every 20 years. And this time, the meeting is so lined up that it hasn't happened since about the 1200s. I don't know the exact date, it might be 1260. But in any case, it's going to be a wonderful time to make some spirit water and have the energy of the grand conjunction and the solstice all come together. So what I have here is my little jar. This is how where I put all the things that I'm going to put, and I leave them in this jar for 3 or 4 days in a darkened area, although I like to pull this jar out and sit it on the counter in the evening so it gets the moon and the star and the planets, all that energy in what I'm making. And so I like to use potato vodka. This one is Monopolova. I don't think it really matters, but potato vodka has a really smooth feel, and it's really nice in the mouth. It's not as harsh as some. And so what I've done is I've emptied out my whole bottle, and this is a huge bottle. This is 1.75 liters, and I put it here in my big jar. I could actually probably put 2 bottles in there and make a super batch, but I like to make them like one large bottle at a time. So now I'm going to use all these things that I've gathered. So let's talk a little bit about sacred gathering. So I don't have any flowers here because here in New York, there's not many flowers blooming, so I don't have anything that I would be actually going to a plant and asking at that particular time. Although I do have some lavender and I have some sage that I grew in my own garden, and I gathered that in a sacred way. So how do we gather in a sacred way? We ask the plants for permission and tell them what we're going to be doing. And there's some studies that shows that plants actually, if you give them a few moments, they pull back some of their energy from the spot, from the flower that's going to, or the leaves that are going to be plucked. And so we're asking the plant, we're working with the plant, we're listening to the plant. In which spots can I have this one? Is this one a good one? Can I take it today? Is this a good one? So, shamans are always finding animistic, and we're talking to all the elements around us, the plants, the animals, the sun, the moon, the stars, everything has its own energy, and we work with permission, not just with people, but with all the things around us. So what I have today is some oranges, and so I wasn't able to pick them with any sacred way because we don't have them here. Although when I was in California, they have those wonderful orange trees, and I was able to pick those oranges and make a wonderful brew there in a sacred way. But as I'm working with them and cutting them, I'm saying, this is what I want to do, and I want to use you in a sacred way. I want you to make spirit water. I want you to bless things. I want to make this beautiful batch. So I'm talking and thinking. And so how do we choose what to put in our spirit water? So I like to make it be seasonal. So sometimes the last batch I made, I had apples and raisins and cinnamon and a little bit of lemon. And of course, I always have the 4 sacred plants: sage, cedar, tobacco, and sweetgrass. And I have a little bit of lavender here too. These are dried. It's absolutely fine to have dried. And then this batch, I thought for the holiday season, I thought I would have some cranberries and some cinnamon. Use cinnamon sticks. You can use regular cinnamon, but then, the straining gets a little more difficult. And I put a little bit of clove, and I have some oranges and some lemons. So I'm just going to be adding the oranges and the lemons to the vodka. Just putting them in. If you want to squeeze a little, get a little extra juice, that's fine too. It's really delicious to have the juices in there, as well as everything from the peelings and the covering. So put all this together in there. And I'm thanking the oranges, thanking the lemons for all their beauty and everything they're going to add to this brew. And I'm still thinking of my intention here, my intention to create something beautiful for my clients and for the directions and for anything else that I use this spray for. And then it might be cleansing and clearing as well as feeding. So I have a multi-purpose brew. And then sometimes I'll make a brew that is just for cooties, in other words, to chase things away, chase entities and energies away that I don't want. But this brew, I'm making it a little bit multifunctional. All right, so there's my lemons and my oranges. And I don't have any exact recipe. It's probably a cup or 2 or 3 in a great big bottle. So you can kind of make it to taste whatever tastes really good to you. And then I've got some cinnamon sticks dried I'm going to put in. I have a few cloves, just a few. Cloves can be strong. I have some cranberries, maybe a 1/4 of a cup, something like that. Put that all in there. Look how beautiful it's looking. And then now I have my sacred plants. So my sacred plants, thank you, thank you, thank you for bringing your sacred medicine, your sacred energy to all that I'm creating here. And so then I'm going to put those in here. And it's maybe about the size of my little fingernail amount, or slightly larger, just a little bit. I had a little bit extra of lavender in there. I thought I'd add a little lavender. So there we go. There it is. And so now I'll just put the lid on here, and I'll allow this all to steep in a dark place, outside of the sunshine. You don't want it to heat up and get hot. And then I'll take it out at night on my counter or somewhere wherever I put it, so that it can get that moon and star and planetary energy. Especially now when I make my brew, I'll be making another batch for the solstice and for the grand conjunction. So that's going to be very powerful stuff, powerful energy coming in. So then after I leave this for about 3 or 4 days, let me show you what you're going to have. So then I'm going to strain it. I've got my strainer and I got a bowl. So I'm going to strain the really heavy pieces out. I can do that with a spoon. And any of the heavy pieces there, I'm going to strain out into this colander type thing. And then I'll have left, the remainder. And then I'm going to take my cheesecloth. I have a cheesecloth that's going to fit on the top of this jar. And I'll attach it with rubber band. And I'm going to strain once again. So I'm going to take the big things out with the colander. And then I'm going to strain what's left through a cheesecloth. So it gets really smooth. And so it's going to go from looking like this with little bits and pieces coming through and shaking it to this. Something very clear. You can see it's very clear now. It's been strained twice. And so one big bottle of this 1.75 liter makes about 12 bottles of Florida water. And I love it because I can give it as gifts. Give it away. You can put a label on it. I have some labels here. I will show you. So I have these little snowflakes I can put on, and then I'll put on the date. Like I'll probably put Karen's full moon brew, Karen's December brew, Karen's solstice, and in conjunction brew. Oh, that's going to be really great, really special. Yeah, so I always like to remind people it's all about intent. So it's so important to have your intent while you're creating your Florida water and to do it in a sacred way. Gather the plants in a sacred way. Thank the plants. Thank everything that you're using. Open your Viracocha. Allow the energy of your Viracocha to feed this batch that you're making. And then for those of you who can't use alcohol for any reason, you can absolutely make the same recipe with water. Water doesn't aspirate. In other words, it may not be as easy to spit water, but you can practice in the shower and get really good at it. The things that your recipe is not going to last long. The thing about making this in alcohol, in addition to the fact that it aspirates really quickly, is that it also is a preservative. So this batch of Florida water I'll be able to keep for a really long time. Maybe 6 months or so, where if you make it in water, it's after a week or 2 or 3 weeks, you have to check because it might have gotten a little bit moldy or mildewy. But it's absolutely the same thing. You can make a smaller batch and just refresh it and make it more often if you make it with water. So, work with where you are, work with where your clients are. Maybe they don't want to be around alcohol at all. Maybe they don't even want to smell it. They don't want to be spritzed. And of course, in these days with COVID, people may not be very happy if you spritzing, and some of that spritz can fly around in the air. So you could also put this in a spray bottle and just spray a little bit so you don't have to worry about it. I do most of my work remotely. I have a worldwide practice, and so I don't really have to worry much about in-person and worrying about spritzing and COVID and keeping safe. So really, it's really depends on your practice and how you are in this world, how you're operating in this world. And I hope you're all operating well in this world. I hope you and your loved ones are doing well. I hope that you're finding peace. I hope you're finding your way. And I want to share with you my great love for you. And I hope you enjoy making a batch of spirit water. I know my daughter made a batch of cookies with her little boy yesterday, and this would be another great fun thing to do, to make. You could even do it over Zoom. I'm big on doing things over Zoom because this is where we are in this world right now. So yeah, this is another thing you can get together and think about what kind of things you could like to add. One person can be the gatherer, and people could participate in putting it all together and praying over it, making it all very sacred, making it all very lovely, something to do together. All right, everybody. Love you much. Talk soon.